So you're here because you've just lost your 50-50. It's a pain. You feel like it's 90 wishes gone to waste, and now there's a chance that you're not going to get your desired 5-star character. So it's fair to say that you're probably feeling a little down on your luck right now. Because POV, you were mentally betting on winning your 50-50, and that just didn't end up happening. And now you're at a point where you have no more wishes left. It's a bad time to be you right now. Well then, let's talk about it. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a range of tips, from comfort tips and what your next steps are, to tips that you can consider in the future to make this process a little less painful the next time you go through it. Because just because it's happened once, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen again. My C6 Qiqi is a great example of this. C6. And then once I've dished out all the tips, I'll be giving you a little extra something at the end of the video. You'll see what I mean. Ready? Let's go. Welcome to the coping center. Here's a cookie and a nice warm cup of hot chocolate for you. Now sit back, relax, and here are some comforting words for if you're feeling down about losing your 50-50. Number 1, you're guaranteed next time. You can find solace knowing that the next time you want to pull for a 5-star character, that character is guaranteed. Even if you don't get another 5-star on the limited character banner for, like, a year, the guarantee will still be there. So this gives you a couple of options. You can either, 1, continue to pull for the character that you want right now and hope that you get them an early pity. Or 2, you can stop pulling on their banner this time and instead save your Primogems. You can save for the next few months or so, and you'll have the option to solely save for the character that you just missed, or use your guarantee on another character that you also want. It just depends where your likes and priorities lie right now. Number 2, reruns exist. There's no rush to get the character that you want. If you're free to play, or you're not a whale, or you're not planning on spending any money on Genshin right now, chances are you're probably not thinking about getting Genesis crystals right now. Because let me give you an idea on how much you'd need to spend in the worst case scenario. I'm going to be doing this in pounds, but you'll get the idea. Even though you're guaranteed your character, if we're going by the worst case scenario and you end up getting your 5-star character at 90 pity, that means that you still need a total of 14,400 Genesis crystals. Now let's break this down. 6,480 Genesis crystals is £99.99. If we double that, that means for £199.98, you'll have 12,960 Genesis crystals, meaning that you're still 1,400 gems off. If you spend money on the smaller pack to reach the 1,400 mark, that means that in total, to get from 0 to 90 pity using just Genesis crystals alone, you would have had to spend around £256.74. While that's the absolute maximum that you'll spend, I don't think that's an option for most people. However, I'd say that one of the biggest reasons why people would feel desperate enough to even consider it, even for just a split second, is because of FOMO. FOMO sucks, and Genshin FOMO is everywhere, because your social feeds are likely filled to the brim with this game, which is why that you should remember that reruns exist for a reason. Your 5-star character will get another banner at some point or another, albeit Hoyoverse might pull a Shenhe situation on us, where the character hasn't got a rerun in like a year. But if you're dedicated to the Primogem grind and you have eyes for no one but this character, then you'll have enough to not only get the character, but you might also be lucky enough to grab some of their constellations. Number 3, you have a 5-star character now. If nothing else, you have a 5-star character now. Yeah, it sucks, it's not the one that you want, but you have a 5-star, you know? While the standard banner 5-stars may not be meta-defining or anything, each of them still has their benefits, and you should consider building them up. There are a couple of DPSs in that roster, and also some supports. Hopefully you feel a little better about losing your 50-50 after those comforting reminders. So, what can you do right now? Well, there are a few things you can do. Do what feels right for you, of course, but here are some options to consider. 1. Decide whether or not you're going to continue to pull on this current banner. We spoke a little about this option in the beginning, but let's go more into detail about it. Let's go over the pros and cons of pulling on the current banner once you've lost your 50-50 on said banner. Pros: you're giving yourself the maximum amount of chances, at least within your means to get this character, which means that you're giving yourself the chance to hit early pity, should RNG bless you with that. B. If you don't end up getting this character by the time their banner is over, at least you can say to yourself that you tried your best, rather than wondering, oh, I wonder what would have happened if I continued pulling. Cons. It will give you less time to save Primogems, as you'll most likely be left with 0 by the time their banner ends. This won't be a great position for you to be in case there's a character coming in the next patch or two that you would consider using your guarantee on. That's really the only con I can think of, so I guess it's up to you on what to do and what feels right for you. 2. Grind for more primos. I have a video on ways to save Primogems, but it's pretty outdated, so I will be making a new one within the next couple of months, so subscribe for that. But in the meantime, here are some immediate things on what you can do right now to save your Primogems, especially if you've just lost your 50/50. Explore. Unless you're a completionist player, I highly doubt you've explored the entirety of Sumeru's desert or the depths of Fontaine's underwater areas. Hey, maybe you've got some exploring to do in older regions too. Whatever the case, if you've done your daily commissions and you still want to Primogem grind, exploring is the way to go. Plus, when you collect things like sigils from chests, as well as different forms of oculi, you are able to redeem rewards, and sometimes those rewards are Primogems or wishes, world quests and hangout quests. Again, unless you're a completionist or an intense lore nerd, you're probably really only interested in the Archon quests lore, and maybe even some of the 5-star character story quests. Apart from that, your world quests and hangout quests aren't of that much interest to you, so there may be a chance that you have a bunch of those just sitting in your backlog. But that probably means that you have a good chunk of Primogems in there too. So if that's you, this would probably be a good time to get onto those quests. Number 3. Pre-farm to perfection. Apart from Primogem farming, there are other ways to prepare for your chosen character, regardless of if you're going to be wishing for them on their current banner or if you're going to be waiting for their rerun instead. One of the ways of preparing if you're done with your Primogem grind for the day is pre-farming. And by pre-farming, I mean both artifacts and leveling materials. Look up some guides for your chosen character or characters and get pre-farming. Getting a new and usable artifact set can sometimes be a very time-consuming task and could take longer than you might think. So it's best that you start as far in advance as you can. As for leveling materials, you could farm for multiple characters in one day if you really wanted to. Again, just do what feels right for you. Don't compare yourself to people online. I'm not saying don't consume Genshin content because it's nice to see and hear what others have to say. Sometimes it could even enhance your gameplay experience, like if there's a bit of lore that you were low-key unsure about, but it got explained to you online. However, the downside of consuming Genshin content is FOMO. You'll see all these people playing with this new character, and it makes you feel pretty bad that you don't have that character. You've got to remember that everyone is in a different place in their life, let alone their Genshin experience, which means that some people may have the means to put money in Genshin. And I know this is cliche and it's an overused thing to say, but people on social media, even when it comes to gaming, mainly talk about their highlights. You might see somebody who has the character that you want, but chances are that they haven't posted their journey on what it took to get that character. Like, they could have lost their 50/50 and spent £150 to get a single copy. Or someone may have been saving their Primogems for way longer than you. Different circumstances yield different results, and it's not worth getting envious or jealous of. Otherwise, you could end up spending money that you don't necessarily have, and you might end up regretting your choice. Learn to use your new 5-star character. One of the upsides of this whole thing is that you do have a 5-star character now. Maybe you have a constellation. So I'd say that it's definitely worth doing some research into this 5-star character, trying out how they play, and see if you like them. And try to keep an open mind about it. I know you're feeling a bit down because you wanted somebody else, but there are some decent units in the standard 5-star character roster. I want to take a break and talk about today's sponsors, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Tokyo Treat is a monthly Japanese snack subscription box where you'll get up to 20 of the most latest, most exclusive, limited edition and seasonal flavors Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited time, like Sakura Pepsi, Japanese Kit Kats and many more. Sakura Co is also a monthly Japanese snack subscription box where you will receive 20 traditional and authentic artisan Japanese snack items, including Japanese teas and one special Japanese tableware with your box every month. Sakura also helps in partnering with local Japanese snack makers to continue to share Japanese culture and traditions that have been passed down from over 100 years. They want to share Japanese culture to the world through the medium of snacking. If you want to enjoy pop Japanese snacks, you can choose Tokyo Treats. But if you want traditional Japanese treats, you can enjoy Sakura instead. Tokyo Treat and Sakura's boxes come with a different theme each month, keeping things exciting and fresh. This month's Tokyo Treat theme is Snacktacular Christmas. Tokyo Treat wants to bring you a taste of the holidays in Japan, with snacks including Kit Kat strawberry chocolate cake, Christmas corn snacks, Calpis soda, and much more. This month's Sakura theme is Holidays in Hokkaido. Savor the renowned flavors of Japan's northern prefecture, Hokkaido, where every bite and moment is a celebration of this season. Enjoy snacks like cheese arare and the butter cookie. Check out the link in the description to get $5 off your first box when you use my code. Thank you Tokyo Treat and Sakura for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to... Now, I won't hold back here. I'm going to be giving you some tips on how you can deal with this in the future and try to avoid it as much as you can. Starting off with the fact that a character costs 180 wishes. I know it's nice to have your hopes up and think to yourself, oh yeah, I'm gonna win my 50-50 and get them at early pity. It's all good. It's nice to be optimistic, but mainly with things that you actually have control over. You can't control if you're going to win your 50-50 or get your character at early pity. So it really shouldn't be a thought that you're holding on to dear life to. Instead, if you really want to feel like you're in control of your wishing situation, always think of the worst case scenario, which is losing your 50-50 on high pity and then getting the guarantee again at a high pity. So always think to yourself that a character costs 180 wishes. If you're guaranteed, think to yourself that a character costs 90 wishes. That way, you have a solid aim to work towards. And if you get to it, and if you exceed that before the next banner comes around, then congrats. You have total control of the situation that way, because then you're prepared for any and all outcomes. Don't build pity. Sometimes you really miss the feeling of wishing and you start to crave that feeling again. This is a common situation where people would then start to try and build pity and delude themselves into thinking that it's okay to do so. When in fact, actually, this is pretty risky. Pity count is precious and you can't risk wasting your wishes on accidentally pulling a limited 5-star character, especially if it's on a character's banner that you don't want to have in your personal roster. So when it comes to this temptation, think about this. We spoke earlier how when you're saving your wishes, say to yourself that a character costs 180 wishes. Well, when it comes to the point where you're thinking about wanting to try and build pity for the sake of feeling what it's like to wish again, tell yourself the opposites. Say to yourself that the 5-star character of that banner could be in your next single pull. That way, you'll feel like you need to keep saving and not wish on the character banner, or your effort would become wasted. If you really want to wish, I would suggest either making an alt account or grinding the battle pass, even if you're free to play, because at certain levels you'll get one standard banner wish. The standard banner has its own pity, so it won't affect your pity on limited banners, but I can't in good conscience tell you to use your Primogems on the standard banner to relieve your wishing temptation. Your Primogems should be reserved for limited banners only, so instead, grind things that earn you standard banner wishes, like the Battle Pass, Dragon Spines, Frost-bearing Tree, Inazuma's Sacred Sakura Tree, the Chasm's Lumen Stone, Sumera's Tree of Dreams, and Fontaine's Fountain of Lucine. Remember that you can't have every single character, especially without Genesis Crystals. Everyone except whales should have this mentality. You're not going to get all of the units, especially if you don't spend money on Genshin. You can only go for characters that you absolutely love and want, regardless of if they're meta or not. Don't get tempted by meta, only go for characters that you want. And finally, let's now go over how to use the new character you have, because congratulations, you have a new 5-star character to play with now. Qiqi is a cryo sword user. She works best as a healer. Her talent priority is her elemental burst. She can utilize ocean hued and attack percent sets. Qiqi's build will be attack percent all around, same goes for weapons. Diluc is a pyro claymore user. He works best as a pyro DPS. His talent priority is his elemental skill. He'll need crimson witch artifacts, with the stats being an attack percent sands, cryo goblets and crit hats. You'll want a weapon with crits, but prototype archaic will do the trick for free to plays. Jean is an anemo sword user. She works best as a healer. For this build, her talent priority is her elemental burst. She'll need Viridescent, with the stats being an attack sands, attack goblet and healing hats. As for weapons, her most accessible one to everyone is the craftable one from Inazuma. Keqing is an electro sword user. She works best as an electro DPS. Her talent priority is her elemental burst. She'll need Thundering Fury and an attack percent set, with her stats being the following: attack sands, electro goblet and crit hats. For weapons, her most easily accessible ones are Lion's Roar and the Blackcliff sword. Mona is a Hydro Catalyst user. She works best as a sub DPS or a support. Her talent priority is her elemental burst. She'll need Emblem, with the stats being the following: attack percent sands, hydro goblets and crit hats. For weapons, at least for a burst DPS build, you want Favonius Codex or Skyward Atlas if you're lucky. Tighnari is a Dendro bow user. He works best as a Dendro DPS. His talent priority is his normal attacks. Tighnari will be ran with Deepwood with the following stats: EM Sands, Dendro Goblet and Crit Hats. If you don't have Skyward Harp, then use Prototype Crescents. Dehya is a Pyro Claymore user. She works best as I guess she's just there to make the team look pretty. You can build her as anything, from a DPS to a support, up to you. She'll need either Varukash's Glow, Emblem or Tenacity. For stats, she needs an Attack Sands, Pyro Goblet and Crit Hat for a DPS build. For a support build, just put HP on her for everything. The most accessible weapon Dehya has is Rain Slasher.